So far, we've taken a look at two methods of creating subassemblies. We've seen how an ordinary assembly simply becomes a subassembly by virtue of being added to another assembly. We also saw how a group of components already existing in an assembly can be converted into a newly formed subassembly. A slight variation of this is the ability to create a new empty subassembly on the fly. To do this, simply right-click on the name of the assembly in the Feature Manager tree and select Insert New Subassembly. When I do this, you can see there's a new subassembly added to the Feature Manager tree. You see these brackets here? Well, these brackets identify that at this moment, the subassembly is a virtual assembly. All this means is there are no separate external assembly files created as with this subassembly. Instead, the new subassembly only exists within the main assembly file. If I click Save, the Save As dialog box prompts us to choose whether we save the assembly internally or externally. If I select Internally, the subassembly remains as a virtual assembly. If I select Externally, the subassembly is saved as a separate file. The type you decide to use is entirely up to you, but for now, I'll just go ahead and save it internally, and then click OK. To add components to this new subassembly, you can simply demote top-level components into the subassembly by dragging and dropping them in the Feature Manager tree. And keep in mind that although the subassembly is virtual, the components within it were created external to the assembly and therefore remain as separate part documents.